I didn't oversleep. Let's go. Laptop check, watch check, sunglasses check, camera check. Oh, wait, oh shit, oh damn it. All right, I'm here, it's Apple Park, it's iPhone day. I know you guys wanna hear about all the new facts, so let's just jump into it. There's a lot of things coming. There's a new iPhone 16, iPhone 16 Pro, AirPods 4 with noise cancellation, AirPods Max with USB-C, new features coming to the AirPod Pros from the last couple of years, and a new redesigned Apple Watch and a new Apple Watch Ultra in black. There's a lot of things. Let's jump right into it. Let's go. I've had time to gather my thoughts and I am ready to share them with you guys. I'm Brad Bennett with MobileSyrup and I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. All right, so the first thing I think I want to talk about are the new features coming to both iPhones. So that includes things like camera controls, new ceramic shield, satellite SOS messages is finally coming to Canada, and a bunch more. But I think the one everyone wants me to talk about first is the new camera control, not a button, and it's the most interesting by far. So basically the iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Pro have a new touch-sensitive zone along the right side, kind of in a really good spot actually to use it when you're holding it in portrait, and really good for shutter when you're using it in landscape. Basically, there's a pretty big learning curve with this new feature. I struggle with it a bit off the hop, but I do think the more I would use it once I get one of these phones in my hand full time, I'll be able to figure it out. It's kind of like a touchpad or a trackpad on a MacBook. It's like force sensitive. You can press and hold and it gives you vibration feedback. It's not a real button with a real click. I'm back home now. It is technically a button if you click it down all the way. I had that mistaken, and if you just press it down a little bit, it's more like a trackpad with haptic feedback. All right, back to the video. Expect a few more corrections as we continue. And that allows you to do some pretty cool things. So if you touch and hold on it for a long time, it'll instantly jump into video. A quick tap will do photos. Two, kind of like you're already holding it and you kind of like push down twice, will open up the camera controls. So that does things like you can change the zoom by swiping on the button, which works really, really well. You could just swap between the lenses, kind of old school style, like you would by tapping on the 0.5, the 1x, the 2x, and the 5x buttons on your iPhone traditionally. Another new feature that they've kind of packed into this button is the enhanced photographic style. So you can swipe to change kind of the color tone. They're especially working on skin tones this year, really making sure that video and photography users can really make sure, like nail the skin tones before they take a shot. So it's pretty interesting, and I think it's something that, well, not that exciting to say, will be used by a lot of people because everybody has different skin tones and everybody wants to look accurately represented on camera. If you're using cinematic mode, you can even use the camera control area to swap between your f-stop, so increasing and decreasing the blur to try to make it seem more in cinematic. You can kind of almost like focus pull this here, which feels like more of a creative tool. And I think the camera control area really leans into that heavily, and I think a lot of people are gonna be pretty excited about it. And this isn't locked only into the Apple camera app. They showed on stage both Snapchat and the high-end video app Kino both using this feature, and I expect because Kino is made by the same people behind Halide, we'll probably see some Halide controls coming soon, and a bunch of other third-party camera apps will be able to use this new area for like really cool camera features. It's unclear if developers who don't make camera apps are going to be able to use this camera control button, but it doesn't seem likely because it's called camera control and Apple seems very set on it being tied to camera functions. That being said, there is a new thing called visual intelligence coming later this year. Ties into the Apple Intelligence suite of features. Basically, you can use camera control to open up the camera. For lack of a better word, gives you kind of a Google Lens-like effect where you can point the camera at things and it will be like, oh, what is that car? That's a Mustang. What kind of breed of dog is that? That's a Border Collie. Here's a music poster. Boop. When is the next concert from this band? Or link me in Apple Music. It'll be able to give you more contextual things just from what your camera sees to kind of help you learn more about the world around you. And the fact that it's tied right to this quick access button makes me think that it actually might be used a lot, but that remains to be seen because Apple Intelligence is still only in beta, and I don't think anyone has tested out this new feature yet on the press side. That's kind of it for camera controls. During my demo, I was pretty nervous in there. My hands were a little more clammy than I like to admit. So the first time I used it, I was kind of like struggling to figure it out. That being said, I didn't know how to use it, and I think there is a bit of a learning curve. The second time I was much better at it, and you can kind of also Some of those controls you don't have to use the button for. Once that menu opens, you can touch the screen to control them as well, which is kind of handy. So I think down the line, it will be something that people will be able to use, and I do think people will adapt to it quite quickly. Especially because the camera control button just seems so much easier to press. You know, the action button from last year, while very handy, and I've used a lot of different shortcuts throughout the years to kind of get the most out of it, it's always in a kind of an awkward spot above the volume buttons where I feel like I'm accidentally hitting it when I want to hit volume, and it's kind of out of reach when I want to be using it to quickly open my camera or something. But this new camera control button is kind of, like I said, right where my thumb is, right where my forefinger is. It feels like it's part of the phone. No, that's not the right way to describe it. It just feels like it's in the right spot, which I think is a good thing. One of the next features that's coming to all the iPhones and older iPhones is satellite messages. This was something that was shown off at WWDC, and it was only in the US at launch, but it is going to be coming to Canada, which means when you are, hiking or without service, you can use SOS satellite to just send a message, like a check-in, being like, hey, I made it to my campsite, I'm safe. You could talk more if you wanted, you can do some other things, but it's just really nice that those features are coming to Canada for a nice peace of mind. And they will be free for 2 years with new phone purchases. Another camera feature that's really interesting on the video side is called Audio Mix. Basically, it's this new mode within the video side of the camera where you can set different types of audio recording variables. That's not really the right term, but I'll explain it and you'll get it. Basically, you can choose to get all the audio from whatever's in frame. You can get all the audio without the background noise, or they have another one that's kind of a little more cinematic where you can get the audio of the people talking and the phone will automatically lower the background noise so that it kind of sounds like a movie scene where you are set in a scene, you can hear the scene, but the focus is on the audio of the people talking within the scene, or the subjects within the scene, more likely. Untested yet because it was just so busy in there and I wouldn't be able to really go through the footage, but that seems like a big feature. And for people, using their iPhones to make short films and stuff like that, or even content creators like me who are often filming videos in big crowds, I think that's going to be a big plus. On top of that, there seems to be a new AI wind filter mode. So after you shoot a video, it will process the audio, and if there's wind noise, it will really cut it out to try to give you a cleaner sound. Remains to be seen how well that works. In Final Cut, I find that the audio isolation features are really good. That's one of the things I like about Final Cut, is it has that one-click audio solution for me as I'm moving quickly. And if that's built right into the iPhone, that's awesome. The last thing about the new cameras that's on both phones is they both have a new anti-reflective coating, which is something we've wanted a long time on the lenses. On the Pro phones, that seems like there are no stops, it's just anti-reflective coating. For some reason it says anti-reflective coating in brackets Fusion on the regular iPhone 16s. I did end up figuring that out. Basically, I was mistaking Deep Fusion with the Fusion camera. The Fusion camera is iPhone's camera that can do the 2x crop zoom effect. So the main lens on the iPhone 16 is the Fusion camera. So it appears that only that lens has the anti-reflective coating. And on the Pro, it's all three lenses. That said, this is something we've wanted Apple to fix for years, and I'm really excited to test it because, other phones from other manufacturers were really starting to pull ahead in the anti-reflective space, I guess. Easily the best thing for pretty much everyone is a new ceramic shield. The new phone should be twice as tough, no more scratches, no more bumps. Oh, sorry, not no more, but less, and I think that's a huge improvement. The old iPhones were pretty good. I've had a lot of drops on mine, it survived. Did get a few scratches, so I'm hoping this new screen will reduce that, and if it does, big plus. And if people use their phones longer and longer, as they seem to be doing, I think stuff like that that's more durable and helps the phones last longer, always exciting. Speaking of redesigning the phones, the interiors have been tweaked this year to hold a bigger battery and have better thermal management, which should help with things like AAA gaming, just using the phone for longer, and that's also a pretty universal update that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about. The last thing I'll say before I get into breaking up the phones into the 16 and the 16 Pro is that all the Canadian phones will still have a SIM card slot. All right, I'll start with the iPhone 16. First of all, there's a few new colors this year, white and black obviously, but there's a new teal green, really, really nice, and a new ultramarine, which is like this deep, vibrant blue that actually was really stunning in person. It had just like this nice pop to it that really felt kind of fun, kind of modern, and the color infused glass that Apple used last year has been improved this year, so all the colors are much richer. Of course, the last color being pink. Also, I don't want to say more Barbie, but somewhere in that range, and I think people are going to be pretty excited about it. It's a really nice pink. The iPhone 16's also got a huge chip upgrade this year, so now they can do AAA gaming and support Apple Intelligence, two sort of high-end features that were locked to the iPhone 15 Pro come post-WWDC, and now they're up for everyone, which should ideally entice more developers to bring or build AAA games on iPhone or in the Apple ecosystem, something I've wanted for a long time, and the AI features seem pretty cool. And this will be the first sort of Apple suite of phones that support it, so we'll see how they end up doing once the features roll out later this year. It seems like some of the features might launch alongside the phone, but I do expect some of the features to stay in beta. The Apple Intelligence stuff seems to be rolling out with a little more care. Apple's really trying to make sure they don't fall into some of those traps that AI companies have done before, where they put out their image generation and things like that, and people are all of a sudden generating like really wonky things. So we'll see how Apple does it, but I do expect most of those features to roll out hopefully before the end of the year. The iPhone 16 also has the action button. You may know it from the iPhone 15 Pro last year. So now you can program like a shortcut to your camera, a shortcut to your flashlight, a shortcut to the Shortcuts app, which allows you to pretty much do anything. I've had a lot of fun with that in the 15, and I'm hoping if it reaches more people, we'll get even more cool shortcuts and things made for the action button to make it even more useful a year from now. Let's get into some of the camera stuff. I know I mentioned some of them before that are coming to both phones, but the iPhone 16 in particular is getting a new 48 megapixel lens on the ultra. Back again, it's not 48 megapixels on the ultra wide. The autofocus part is true, you can do macro, but the 48 megapixel ultra wide is only on the Pro phones. And it has autofocus, which means you can now do macro mode, which is one of the most fun modes you can do with an iPhone or any phone camera really. So it's exciting that that's coming to more people. You may have also noticed that the lens array has been redesigned so the lenses are right beside each other instead of being kind of offset diagonally. And this allows for you to take spatial video, which is just kind of like this 3D effect with your videos that you can then watch in a Vision Pro. It's pretty cool. I've used it a few times so far with my Vision Pro and my iPhone 15 Pro. And well, it's not something I do all the time. For like special memories that I would really want to go back and relive, it's nice to catch them in spatial and have the opportunity to watch them in 3D later on. It's kind of a good like it's almost like a Minority Report or like the pensive from Harry Potter, like kind of looking into a memory. It's hard to comprehend or explain, but pretty cool. And I think now that people have the opportunity to shoot spatial videos, they'll be able to use them more if they, Apple rolls out more Vision headsets in the future and more people start playing around in that mixed reality Apple zone. All right, one of the last things that I kind of want to talk about with the iPhone 16 is the better battery life. Both phones are supposed to have better battery life this year, and that's exciting. Seems like it's going to be somewhere between 3 to 6 hours, depending if you have the regular iPhone 16 or the iPhone 16 Plus. But either way, that's a big jump in battery life no matter what. And I think people will be really happy, even if they just get an extra hour of screen on time at the end of the day, All right, let's move on to the iPhone 16 Pro. First thing I want to mention, Desert Titanium looks really, really cool. I love that bronze color effect. Also, all of the new phones have a different sort of, not exactly finish, but a new finishing process on the side rails, giving them more of a glossy side, similar to the old stainless steel iPhones. And I think it's a really good compromise between the super matte iPhone 15 Pro series and the iPhone 14 Pro series, which had really glossy stainless steel rails. It's still much lighter because it's titanium, but it does look a little more premium than last year's phone, which I do think Pro users will enjoy or appreciate because they have to pay so much more for their phones. You kind of want it to look with that little Apple jewelry effect. When you're not looking at the new color on the back, when you're looking at the front of the screens are a little bigger this year. The phones are a tiny little bit bigger, but the bezels are also smaller. So really tiny bezels make the phone look super premium, and you just have a bigger screen regardless if you get the Pro Max or the regular 16 Pro. Like the iPhone 16, these phones have been redesigned internally, which means a bigger battery as well, more battery life. Can't complain about that. It seems like the Pro Max is going to be a battery life champion too. Circling back to camera features, which is probably the main reason most people get a Pro iPhone, the ultra wide has also been redesigned on this one to be 48 megapixels, should be much better. Apple says the new chip allows the camera to take photos much faster, so there's zero shutter lag when you're taking raw photos, which is the heftiest kind of photo method you could take on an iPhone. Should be really helpful. When you move into video, we got 4K, 120 frames per second in Dolby Vision HDR. And within the camera app, you can change, you can slow that down, you can speed it up, you can watch it smooth and regular speed. There's a bunch of options just to make it easy to capture slow motion footage on the new iPhones, which I think is something that looks really, really good, and I really want to try it. Then also the skit, they didn't do a lot of jokes at this one, but they did have a really funny slow motion skit. Maybe I'll link it in the description or something if it's a commercial that they shared, but I don't know why. I was actually laughing in the theater, so that's pretty cool. Of course, to make your videos even more pro, there's new mics on the phone, 4 studio quality mics, which should allow you to do that audio mix feature I was talking about earlier, that wind reduction feature I was talking about earlier. But just in general, the videos that you take should have better audio, which as a video creator is like the hardest thing to do. Setting up a frame is fun, shooting colors is fun, painting with light is fun. Recording audio is like the worst, and if you mess it up, it ruins everything. So better mics on the iPhone should really help with that, and combine that with log and all this stuff, who knows? Maybe next year I won't be even shooting on my Fuji, I'll just be here with an iPhone, which would be pretty cool. Rounding out the new iPhone, we've got a new chip, faster, better gaming performance. Like I said, zero shutter lag when you take a photo in RAW, Wi-Fi 7, I don't know if I mentioned that already. And of course, one of the new changes that was kind of not mentioned but is pretty interesting, you can now do 25-watt fast charging through MagSafe. Who knows how much heat that will generate or if that will affect your battery long term, but when you need to top up quickly, you can now use MagSafe instead of a cable, which is pretty handy actually. All right, let's talk about AirPods. There's not a lot there, and then we'll get into the real star of the show is the new Apple Watches. So the first AirPods Apple talked about were the new AirPod 4s. These will replace the 2019 AirPods that have been on sale for a long time. They're kind of standard AirPods. They've been redesigned to be lighter, have a smaller case, and they are supposed to fit better in more ears, which is pretty exciting. These ones do not feature silicone tips. They do not feature active noise canceling. They do have spatial audio, but they're just AirPods. They're regular, old AirPods, better than before. But if you want to get AirPods, you don't want to spend a lot of money, these are the ones for you. After that, there's AirPod 4s with active noise cancellation. These have the same redesign to fit in more ears, but they include now a speaker on the case for Find My. You can track them a little bit easier. It includes personalized spatial audio, and it includes active noise cancellation, which isn't as good as something with a silicone tip like the AirPod Pros or the AirPod Max that go completely around your ears. But if you think, back like 5 years ago when kind of the best noise cancellation we had, it wasn't active, it was just the silicone tips blocking out sound. It kind of is equivalent to that, which is actually really nice if you don't like silicone tips. So you can still block out most of the sound around you, put your music on, get lost in it really easily, and you won't have to worry about distractions as much. I was testing it out on the show floor, which was like incredibly busy, as you can probably see from the footage that's been like dropped in over this video. And the guy like explaining AirPods to me kept like turning the noise cancellation on and off so I could test it. And he was talking to me the whole time, and I eventually had to like pause it and turn it off myself because I couldn't even hear him and he was right beside me. So while it's not perfect, it is pretty good, and I think for a lot of people, it's enough. That also includes adaptive noise canceling, which means it will like kind of modulate depending on if you're a loud space or if you're in a quiet space, or kind of when you go into the subway and the voice chimes up for the first time, it'll allow it through, but if you're walking past a construction site and it recognizes that jackhammer is really loud, it will tune it out. Adaptive audio on AirPods Pros has been one of the coolest things that I've ever tested, and I'm really excited that it's coming to more AirPods. AirPod Pros themselves didn't get fully refreshed, but they got in a couple new features. So if you already own AirPods Pro 2s or AirPod Pros 2s with USB-C, you'll get these features, which is a new hearing test to kind of see if you have good or bad hearing, if you might need hearing aids. You can now use the AirPod Pros as clinically approved hearing aids, which is pretty cool. And all right, I'm gonna look up what that third thing is. Yes, the new feature, the fourth one. Very cool, actually. So if you're using the AirPods and you're at like a concert, it will turn on noise cancellation and transparency, but it will make sure the noise coming into you isn't so loud that it will actually harm your eardrums. It's kind of like a safety feature. So if you're constantly in like loud spaces, maybe you work in like a factory or something, and you need to be able to hear what's going on around you, but you don't need it to be at eardrum busting levels, the new AirPod, or the existing AirPod Pros, can now like modulate that to a safe level, which I think is actually really cool. All right, AirPods Max were the last AirPods to get updated. Finally, they now include a USB-C port. That's really the only change beyond some new colors, but that does mean that your existing AirPods Max ear cushions will fit on the new ones. They magnet in out, so you could do some swaps. You could have like a mix and match. I've got green ones at home. I'm like wondering how cool my green cups will look with the Starlight ones, which are my new favorite color. The lilac ones and the light blue ones and the orange ones also look really good. And of course, there's also Midnight if you kind of want more of like a almost black, really dark blue color. All right, we'll start with the Apple Watch Ultra because there wasn't a lot of change there. It's easier for me to remember that one. It's now black. Easy peasy. The big change really is the Apple Watch Series 10. It's thinner, it's lighter, got a bigger screen. The battery life hasn't changed, but there are a lot of new features that are packed in there, which I guess kind of offsets the bigger battery that's probably in there. So the first big change is that the screen now goes down to 1 nit, which means the always-on display should be better. The screen also has better viewing angle, so Apple says it's brighter when you're looking at it from an angle, which should really help it feel more like a watch and less like a screen on your wrist. And on top of that, the always-on display can refresh more, again, making it feel more like a watch and less like a computer on your wrist, for not saying screen again. The Series 10 also got the cool depth and water temperature sensor from the Ultra, so now when you're swimming, it will show you how deep you're going. If you're like snorkeling or something, and if you're doing laps in the pool, it'll tell you how hot or cool the pool is. And well, it's not something I use a lot on the Ultra. It's something that's kind of cool, especially as a Canadian, often swimming in lakes where there isn't like a thermometer in the pool. Being able to like go in with my watch and be like, oh yeah, this is what the temperature of the lake is, guys, has been kind of a neat little flex over the last year. So it's something that I think people will probably enjoy on the new Series 10. Oh, I should also say, well, the battery hasn't been improved, the fast charging has. So ideally it will take up like half the time to charge it up, which does mean you need to spend less time with it off your wrist. However, I still think pushing that battery life to 25 hours would have been a huge improvement over the 18 that Apple quotes so far. Another thing Apple sort of hyped up on stage was a new speaker design, which looked pretty cool when I was seeing it in the hands-on. Didn't really get to test it, it was kind of loud in there, but they say you could listen to a podcast or some music just from the speaker on your watch, which I don't know how much I will do, but just having the option for when you're out and about, or maybe like going for a little walk or something in the woods, you forget your headphones, just being able to play some music out of your watch is actually probably pretty handy. And the fact that there's been a speaker on there that we couldn't really use for a while and now you can, I think it just kind of makes sense. So happy about that one. Okay, so now we'll get into the colors. Stainless steel is out, but there's a new glossy aluminum one, jet black like the iPhone 7 Plus or the iPhone 7 series when you got it after, I think if you got the 256 size or more, you could, or maybe it was 512 to a terabyte, you could get it in jet black, which had this amazing cool effect where you kind of like, when it was off, you could never see where the screen ended and the phone began because it was just polished black all the way around. And I think that effect looks really, really cool on the Apple Watch. I'm not a big fan of black watches. I think the natural metal tones are more my speed, but I do think this one looks really, really cool. And man, I loved my jet black iPhone 7 Plus. My dad still uses it to this day. I should probably upgrade him soon, but he still uses it and I love the look of that phone. So I'm really happy Apple brought it back on the watch. Beyond that, and that's the aluminum model. It's a glossy aluminum one for the first time, which is kind of cool. Beyond that, there's also a rose gold and a regular silver aluminum. And when you move over to the titanium, which has replaced stainless steel, making it a lot lighter, there's a gold one, a silver one, and like a darker black kind of titanium one, all very glossy, more shiny, more jewelry-like, and they look really good. There's some new bands to match, and those ones honestly are really nice. And the titanium or the old stainless steel ones always came with a sapphire crystal display, which I do think if you want to use the watch for a long term, having that really, really hard, like rock hard sapphire crystal display helps it, you know, prolong the lifespan of your watch. In the US, there's a new sleep apnea feature. Doesn't seem like that's coming to Canada at launch. Hopefully it will after some point. And basically if you wear your watch to sleep track, after a little bit, it can kind of give you a heads up being like, hey, maybe you should see your doctor. It seems like you might have some of the symptoms of sleep apnea. I think that's pretty cool because obviously medical things like that are really hard to diagnose yourself. So just getting a little extra push from your watch telling you, you know, maybe check this out, maybe a little heads up there, really can't go wrong. And I do hope that comes to Canada sometime soon. All right, courtesy of MobileSyrup.com, here's all the pricing and availability of all of the items. So first off, we have got iPhone 16 Pro starting at 128 gigabytes. It's about $14.49. All right, I'm back in my hotel room editing. I lost like the last minute of my footage, which is, I'm gonna actually call it good luck because it could have been way worse. So here's the pricing, courtesy of Dean back at MobileSyrup. All the devices launch on September 20th. The phones go on pre-order on Friday, which I believe is the 13th. Let's start with the pricing. iPhone 16 Pro starts at 128 gigs for $1,449. The iPhone 16 Pro Max actually starts at 256 gigabytes, but is $1,749. Scrolling down, the regular iPhone 16 starts at $1,129 for 128 gigs, while the 16 Plus, also at 128 gigs, is $1,279. The Apple Watch Series 10, the 42mm GPS model without cellular, $549. 46 GPS, no cellular, $589. 42mm with GPS and cellular, these are the aluminum ones right now, $679. The aluminum 46mm is $719. The titanium 42mm with GPS and cellular, these ones also have the sapphire crystal display, which makes them a little tougher, is an even $1,000, $999. And the titanium 46mm, also GPS cellular, sapphire crystal display, $1,069. Apple Watch Ultra 2 with an Alpine loop or one of the other fabric bands starts at $1,099. And if you want to get a titanium band, that's $1,249. AirPods 4 without ANC, $179. AirPods 4 with ANC, $249. And AirPods Max still at a very expensive price of $779 in Canada. Anyway, you can find all of our coverage over at MobileSyrup. As usual, I am Brad Bennett. I love you all, and I'll see you guys when I see you.